Hello, Karuna. Hello, those who are joining. We'll see if we get much activity in this not previously advertised Dhammapalooza. First one in 2 or 3 weeks, and the last one for another 2 or 3 weeks. So I was debating as to whether I should even bother, but I was like, you know what? I'll give it a try, see what happens. Don't worry, Karuna. Who knows how long this is going to last anyway? It might not even last the hour. Hello, Jay. Hello, Gregory. Welcome. What surgery? How was Karuna Buddhist Vihara? Of all the things I did in California, the most miraculous and the best thing was that this was my first California trip where I didn't become infested by poison oak. Both in Karuna Buddhist Vihara and Abhayagiri, I avoided poison oak. Of course, I also had mostly like minor jobs at those places. I didn't really spend. I didn't have to really go working out in the wilderness, unfortunately. Oh, a giant cyst. Well, I was it benign? Hopefully. Hello, Gautam and Bella. Welcome. And a week from tonight, I will be heading to India in the morning, which is why I won't be doing Dhammapalooza next weekend. So I want to have a nice restful night before a 14-hour flight. Hello, Sky. Welcome. But no, Karuna Buddhist Vihar was very nice. It's always great to spend time with Aya Santusika and Aya Chittananda. However, since it was Katina, I spent time with uh, most of the non-Dhammadharini bhikkhunis on the West Coast. They were all together for Katina. Um, Aya Ananda Bodhi and Aya Suvijana and Aya Jnanaka, um, and Ajahn Nisabo, who was there. Ajahn Nisabo got to kind of experience a little bit of the behind the scenes of being with bhikkhunis, which is nice. So it was a good time, all the monastics together, and then it was also a very good week at Abhayagiri with me. Um, and hard week. I was beaten up pretty bad going up and down that mountain. I don't know. The last two times it didn't seem as bad, but it was very physically exhausting. But good, good. Lost some weight. Um, got some good exercise in, going up and down the mountain. So that was the last time we did a Dhammapalooza. I was in Colorado, and that was a very productive, even though it was 10 days in Colorado, it was very productive. Had a bunch of good meetings, some interesting potential stuff. Um, so setting up things for future connections, like visiting this Burmese monk in Denver. So I think it went pretty well. Ah, yes, they were at the empty cloud ordination. Yeah. So that's what I've been up to while not doing any live streaming. And like I said, next Tuesday morning, I take the flight to India. So I'm just kind of chilling this week, not doing much else, just preparing stuff like that. And then I'm going to go out. And then if I make it back alive, then in the middle of December, we'll get started with everything. Morning Monastery Experience comes back. Dhammapalooza comes back. Everything's going to come back then. What's on your India itinerary? I have no idea. I have no idea. Um, all I know is that the Sri Lankan families who are setting this up, uh, who have been on, to the holy sites, know this monk who lives there. And this monk is going to take me in and show me around and kind of be my in-country contact. If I disappear from the face of the earth, I have no idea what happened there. I have no, yeah. So this is not like with a group or like with a lot of people I know or anything like that. It's going to be an adventure. We'll see what happens. Empty Cloud. Empty Cloud had a joint Bhikkhu and Bhikkhuni ordination. I don't know what day that was. The end of last month, I think. I was in Colorado when it happened. All right. I think let's do the introduction chant anyway. So we'll kind of we'll kind of do some semblance of the normal Dhammapalooza. Um, let's see. Hopefully all this works. I'm on the new computer that the old one died while I was in Colorado. I think I did the last Dhammapalooza on the new one, so it should all work. Let's see. Like I say, a chanting book. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Apakate manuse suye jana paragamino attayang ittara pajjati rameva nudavati ye chako sammadakkate dhamme dhambanuvattino te jana parame santi machudeyang suduttarang kanhang dhammang vippahaya sukhang bhaveta pandito Oka anokanga gamma viveke yattaduramang tatrabira timicceya hitva kame yakinchano pariyodapeya attanang kichittiklese pandito yesang sambuddhi angesu sammachittang subhavitang adana patinisagge yanupadaya yerata Kina sava juttimanto te loke parinibbuta. Those who crossed over. There are few among humans who go to the further shore. The rest of them run about here on this shore. But those well established in Dhamma, those who practice Dhamma, are among those who will cross over, beyond the realm of death so difficult to escape. Abandoning the way of darkness, cultivating the bright, the wise go from home to homelessness, which for others is hard to enjoy. Desiring that rare delight, renouncing pleasure, owning nothing of defilements of the mind, the wise person should cleanse himself. Those whose minds are well established in the factors of enlightenment relinquish attachments and delight not in clinging. They, untainted and radiant, in this very world attain nibbana. Sad, sad, sad. All right, friends. Well, we can continue to catch up, or if there's questions, we can answer questions, have discussion, do some sutta roulette, whatever arises. And my first night at Karuna Buddhist Vihara, because there were so many people there, so many monastics in the hermitage, I actually was slated to sleep in a tent. And that first night it rained and my tent got flooded out. There's like literal, I'm in the tent and there's just like literal puddles of water all around me. I didn't sleep in a tent again after that because there was a bunch of other days it was going to rain. This is the rainy season in California now as the weather gets colder, moving towards the winter. But I got flooded out the first night, and it was interesting. Reminded me of when I was in the 3 months in the tent at Aranya Bodhi, and it didn't rain a lot, but towards the end of the Vasa it did a bunch of times, and the tent was large enough that I could actually kind of move things to where I knew things were going to pour down in here, so I moved it to the other side of the tent. Um, but this tent was too small, so I couldn't do that. So it was surrounded by rain as I was trying to sleep. It was quite interesting. But hello, Meta Maria. Welcome. What I do know about India is the idea is to see the four holy sites, obviously the pilgrimage. Other than that, I don't know much. I, I've talked to a couple people, including one of the Ajahns at Abhayagiri, who have done it, and so I got a little, tips here and there from them. But we'll see how it goes. Meta Maria, this is not a name I'm familiar with. Do I know you as another name somewhere else? And this is your YouTube name, or are you joining us for the first time? I think we'll read a sutta. It's a Majjhima Nikaya, but it's not too long. MN 16. Bhante Sujaso has this translated as hard-heartedness. I see your question, Gregory. I'll answer that after we finish the sutta. So I have heard. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, and Anathapindika's monastery. There, the Buddha addressed the mendicants. Mendicants, venerable sir, they replied. The Buddha said this: Mendicants, when a mendicant has not given up 5 kinds of hard-heartedness and severed 5 shackles of the heart, it's not possible for them to achieve growth, improvement, or maturity in this teaching and training. What are the 5 kinds of hard-heartedness they haven't given up? Let's see what the barrenness of mind, unproductive state of mind. That's the Cheto Kila. That's what Bhante Sujato is translated as hard-heartedness, and Cheto Sovinibanda, shackles of the mind, fetters of the heart. What are the 5 kinds of hard-heartedness that they haven't given up? Firstly, a mendicant has doubts about the teacher. They're uncertain, undecided, and lacking confidence. This being so, their mind doesn't incline towards keenness, commitment, persistence, and striving. This is the first kind of hard-heartedness they haven't given up. Furthermore, a mendicant has doubts about the teaching. This is the second kind of hard-heartedness. They have doubts about the Sangha. This is the third kind of hard-heartedness. They have doubts about the training. This is the fourth kind of hard-heartedness. Furthermore, a mendicant is angry and upset with their spiritual companions, resentful and closed off. This being so, their mind doesn't incline towards keenness. Commitment, persistence, and striving. This is the fifth kind of hard-heartedness they haven't given up. These are the 5 kinds of hard-heartedness they haven't given up. What are the 5 shackles of the heart they haven't severed? Firstly, a mendicant isn't free of greed, desire, fondness, thirst, passion, and craving for sensual pleasures. This being so, their mind doesn't incline towards keenness, commitment, persistence, and striving. This is the first shackle of the heart they haven't severed. Furthermore, a mendicant isn't free of greed for the body. This is the second shackle of the heart. Furthermore, a mendicant isn't free from form. This is the third shackle of the heart. They eat as much as they like until their belly is full, then indulge in the pleasure of sleeping, lying down, and drowsing. This is the fourth heart shackle. They lead the spiritual life hoping to be reborn in one of the orders of gods, thinking, by this precept or observance or fervent austerity of spiritual life, may I become one of the gods. As being so, their mind doesn't incline towards keenness, commitment, persistence, and striving. This is the fifth shackle of the heart they haven't severed. These are the 5 shackles of the heart they haven't severed. When a mendicant has not given up these 5 kinds of hard-heartedness and severed these 5 shackles of the heart, it's not possible for them to achieve growth, improvement, or maturity in this teaching and training. When a mendicant has given up these 5 kinds of hard-heartedness and severed these 5 shackles of the heart, it is possible for them to achieve growth, improvement, and maturity in this teaching and training. What are the 5 kinds of hard-heartedness they've given up? Firstly, a mendicant has no doubts about the teacher. They're not undecided, uncertain, or lacking confidence. That being so, their mind inclines towards keenness, commitment, persistence, and striving. The teacher here being the Buddha, obviously, not your like personal teacher. Um, this is the first kind of hard-heartedness they've given up. Furthermore, the mendicant has no doubts about the teaching, the Dhamma. They have no doubts about the Sangha. They have no doubts about the training. They're not angry and upset with their spiritual companions, nor resentful or closed off. This being so, their mind inclines towards keenness, commitment, persistence, and striving. This is the fifth kind of hard heartedness they've given up. These are the five kinds of hard heartedness they've given up. What are the five shackles of the heart they've severed? Firstly, a mendicant is rid of greed, desire, fondness, thirst, passion, and craving for sensual pleasures. This being so, their mind inclines towards keenness, commitment, persistence, and striving. This is the first shackle of the heart they've severed. Furthermore, a mendicant is rid of greed for the body. They're rid of greed for form. They do eat as much as they like until their belly is full, then indulge in pleasures of sleeping, lying down, and drowsing. They don't lead the spiritual life hoping to be reborn in one of the orders of gods, thinking by this precept or observance or fervent austerity or spiritual life may have become one of the gods. Okay, Maria Ari. Okay, very good. Um, and so we see this kind of idea of doing the practice to become one of the gods. Um, you see this kind of, is it in the suttas or the Vinaya? I don't remember, where the one monk is kind of inclined to like do the practice so he can be born in the heavens with the 72 dove-footed nymphs, and the Buddha shows him the oh, that's good. No, he was attracted to a human woman. Then the Buddha shows him that, and then the monks made fun of him because because of, oh, he's practicing for heaven, right? So yeah, this is the if you're practicing doing the practice to just practice for heaven, then you are not doing the practice correctly. This is for like monks, people who are trying to go all the way, not like just a lay person who's practicing dana and sila, something like that. May I become one of the gods. This being so, their mind inclines towards keenness, commitment, persistence, and striving. This is the fifth shackle of the heart they've severed. These are the five shackles of the heart they've severed. When a mendicant has given up these five kinds of hard heartedness and severed these five shackles of the heart, it is possible for them to achieve growth, improvement, and maturity in this teaching and training. They develop the basis of psychic power that has immersion due to enthusiasm and active effort. The basis of psychic power that has immersion due to energy and active effort. The basis of psychic power that has immersion due to mental development and active effort. The basis of psychic power that has the immersion due to inquiry and active effort. And the fifth is sheer vigor. A mendicant who possesses these 15 factors, including vigor, just want to see what he is. Endurance, exertion. That's where the vigor comes from. I was wondering what his translation was for vigor. Is capable of breaking out, becoming awakened, and reaching the supreme sanctuary from the yolk. Suppose there was a chicken with 8 or 10 or 12 eggs, and she properly sat on them to keep them warm and incubated. Even if that chicken doesn't wish, if only my chicks could break out of the eggshell with their claws and beak and hatch safely. Still, they can break out and hatch safely. In the same way, a mendicant who possesses these 15 factors, including vigor, is capable of breaking out, becoming awakened, and reaching the supreme sanctuary from the yoke. That is what the Buddha said. Satisfied, the mendicants approved of what the Buddha said. Ah, thank you, Karuna. Yeah. Yeah, I also felt hard-heartedness is a bit misleading as well. Um, or just not exactly the best translation. Do monks read non-Dhamma novels or watch TV? Yes, on both. So I've been to uh, temples, viharas, wats, um, both Thai and Sri Lankan, where there's TVs. And those monks, these are usually city monks. I've never seen any TVs at a forest monastery, although sometimes they might have something to watch, like a documentary or something like that. Um, but yeah, there's nothing necessarily wrong um, having a TV in a monastery. It's more about what you're using it for. Like, the Dukata, the precept for the monastics is, that we're kind of extrapolating from is a Dukata, which is the most minor rule breach, um, for uh, going to shows and taking part in entertainments and games and things like that. All the different games that they would play back then. I'm not talking video games, obviously, back in the Buddha's day, but that's a good extrapolation to include that as well. But basically, anything that's being used just really for entertainment. Like when I stayed in the one Thai Wat um, in in Colorado Springs. I've stayed twice there, and I'm probably going to do it again in March. Very very nice monks. I enjoy staying with them, but they have a big TV, and like the youngest monk, who's still like he has more years as a monastic than me because they've all been monks since they were like 11, uh, and he's in his like 30s or whatever. But the youngest monk this last time I was there was watching some. I think it was like a Chinese show, but it had like Thai subtitles. It reminded me of the Chinese stuff that I used to watch back in the day. Um, and so he was watching this whatever not documentary, like historical fiction kind of a thing. And this is something that is you can see in different places. And I mean, technically, I would say that would break the rules. I remember hearing about some monks in places watching like daytime soap operas to help to learn English. So I mean, I can kind of be like, if it's to help you to learn English, that's a skillful thing. If this is the country you're living in, you might be able to, share Dhamma with Westerners. I like if you're just watching the soap operas to see, to get involved in. Oh, look what Cindy, did, or Chuck or whatever. These kind of things. Um, then it's technically it would be a rule breach. Um, this is so if you're watching like documentaries or history or something like that, that's not technically a rule breach. However, you can still kind of use it as a distraction. Is it a real breach? No. But is it good for your samadhi? No, it's not really. Like even I like every once in a while, although I don't watch TV, but like on YouTube, you can go to like a history channel, a history YouTube channel, and just watch like a 10-minute thing on something like that. Um, I kind of allow myself a certain percentage of the day to kind of learn non-Dhamma things, history or psychology, evolutionary psychology, biology, all that kind of stuff. Just little kind of things that I find interesting. And sometimes might actually be kind of helpful in understanding my own practice too. It's kind of interesting how you never know where you're going to get something like that. But that is technically not breaking that dukkata. However, like I said, you can use anything as a distraction. And just because it's not necessarily breaking a rule doesn't mean that you probably shouldn't you shouldn't be, you know, doing it without any restraint. So you should have some kind of level of restraint on that. And this is something that's I don't want to say fairly common. Like in a very, very strict, like, big, well supported forest monastery, You're not going to see that. Like, this is the the monastics are going to have very limited computer use and ability in that regard. Um, but in terms of novels, the books are, I think, books are a little bit more kind of accepted among monastics than like videos. I remember when I was a layperson, when I was, going to wanting to become a monk and trying to find, monastics like talking about their going forth and all that. I didn't find much, unfortunately, which is why I did the whole thing on my YouTube channel that I did. But I found an interview with Tanasaro Ajahn Jeff, and the questioner asked, so like, I hear you read Harry Potter. And I'm like, wait a second, Tanasaro is reading Harry Potter? What's going on? What is his response to this? I want to hear this. And he said something to the effect of, he's like, yeah, it's like I think it's not a bad thing if it has, good Dhammic morals and it's not, leading towards you know, unskillfulness and you're not doing it all the time. Whatever. And I thought, that's actually kind of balanced and wise. I thought that was pretty interesting. Um, so even in some of the more restrictive places, wouldn't be surprised to see a kind of, you know, novel here or there. Oh, to refer, even in Abhayagiri, the library in Abhayagiri has all kinds of stuff, non-Dhamma books, history, biology, biographies. You could read, like, I think they have like 70 or 80 biographies of famous people. Like, there's lots of stuff there in that library you can take out, and read. So, so yeah, it's a matter of if you're using it skillfully or not. And there are way worse things than reading a fiction book. Um, even watching it like a history channel or history, whatever documentary. There's way worse things than a monastic can do, in my opinion. This is why I'm not judging. Like if I, go to hang out with those Thai monks and the one young monk is watching the show, it's like whatever. It's like these are nice monks. That's chill. Um, you know, I mean, even some forest monasteries have, things like movie nights every once in a while. Um, so it's interesting. Um, how these things are kind of held and seen in balance, depending on the places and the monastics and all that kind of stuff. Um, and in my opinion, one of the biggest forms of entertainment is get involved in politics. Oh, what's this? Oh, we got to watch a video about this, a video about that. And like, oh God, that's another big distraction from your practice. So it doesn't have to be, whatever Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings or whatever's new fantasy things or whatever's coming out these days, um, to distract you from Dhamma. What would be an example of reading a novel not for entertainment? Well, I mean, if it's like, what would you say, nonfiction, like I'm currently reading I started it a while ago, but I was really trying to finish it in this trip. I'm currently reading Anti-Fragile, which is really awesome, by this guy Nicholas Taleb. Um, talking about fragility versus anti-fragility and things like that. Um, so I mean, am I reading it for entertainment? I guess partially, but I'm also reading it because there's some interesting lessons I could learn from it. So it's a mixed bag. Yeah, novels. Yeah, so I mean, I guess technically a novel would be entertainment. Yeah. I mean, like one of the things that I do is like the last like 40 minutes or half hour or whatever before I go to bed. I can't just like drop off. I can't just be like, okay, I'm going to bed now and fall asleep. It takes me like a couple hours to kind of wind down. And that last like 40 minutes or so before, that's kind of my like fiction read time. Like currently I'm reading this series about going through the lives of medieval people. Like it's like a historical fiction, and how like they're trying to build this cathedral. So it's pretty neat. It's like showing like how this one cathedral, not in the story but like in real life, literally it like took 700 years to finish. Like how many people throughout all those years you know built this thing. And an interesting part of this is I connect very well with this abbot, uh, who's trying to get this cathedral built in the series. He reminds me, he's like, oh, he's like, yeah. So it was like some interesting connections I've had. So that's usually the time where I can kind of just wind down and chill and just read something non-dhamma, and then do some metta and then just fall asleep, something like that. That's pretty much my evening, just to kind of wind down and get tired. Which is that AK Warriors Poly book? Which one is that, Karuna? Spoiler, he died. What kind of spoiler is that? That's like that's the end of every story. You watch these like rom-coms or whatever, these kind of like Hallmark things, like I've had to see with, being home with my parents these last couple of years. And like it always ends at the beginning. Like it ends when they just start their life. And it's like, well, if it really ended, it would show like when they're old and they die. Or even if they die young, who knows? Like that's the real ending. The real ending is they died. They lived happily ever after until they died. All right. But anyway, can you please discuss how some practitioners are so judgy about painkillers? I was prescribed oxycodone, had some annoying conversations with some practitioners who are actually close friends. I would only say just be careful with that stuff. And all those oxys are dangerous. I don't like those things at all. Um, just because of my career and what I saw that stuff do to people. It's like, man, I just I've actually chosen. I've had a couple things where I was prescribed it and I just threw it in the trash. I mean, technically, you're not supposed to do that, but like I was like, I am not taking this stuff. But that's not because of Dhamma. It's not because like, oh, this is bad Dhamma. It's because I just don't like that stuff. I've seen too many regular people kind of, you know, go from innocent pain to addiction and things like that. Ugh, it's yeah. But anyway, no, any practitioner who's like that, that's not that's delusion. That's all it is. You know, sometimes pain is brutal. I think the last time I had something like morphine was my weight loss surgery, which was like what now 14 years ago. When I woke up from it, it felt like somebody like literally knifed my insides because that's exactly what they did. Right? They literally knifed my insides, and it was pretty rough. And I accepted some morphine then, and then I passed out, and then I came back, and I never had pains in there again. Um, but and was I a practitioner then? Yeah, I was. Yeah, I was. I had been a Buddhist 3 years by that point, so I was a practitioner, and I was, trying to be mindful throughout the whole process. But that was rough. That was certainly rough to wake up to that. But hmm. Oh, a new course I'm reading, Polly. Yeah, I have that book. All right. But this is the thing, right? That's their opinion. You know what? If they have that opinion, let them have it. That doesn't have to affect you. You're the one who kind of makes the best decision for your body. There's really no reason to there's no reason to like vilify this from a Dhammic perspective, right? Medicine is allowed. Medicine is not breaking the fifth precept. The only reason to kind of be against it or have that attitude is kind of be like have like the hardcore practitioner attitude. I'm not going to take any medications and I'm just going to be mindful and bear it and blah 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 blah. Which I mean, that's actually not too bad of an attitude, but it just like anything, just like Dutanga practices, just like vegetarianism, just like whatever, the ego can get involved with that. You could be like, "Oh, I'm such a good practitioner. I don't even take any pain medications. I'm so badass," and blah 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 blah. So it's really a delusion, right? Like a kind of arrogance about what is the proper way for a practitioner. It's not breaking the precepts. Something you think you need, no problem. It's medicine. I would be wary about taking it long term, but that has nothing to do with Dhamma. It just has to do with that medication. Um, I don't like that stuff, but that's just me. Haha, no mindfulness of pain for you. There are levels. I remember when I had my root canal. Should have been about that around that time, 2011, maybe 2010. And again, I was already I was already um, a practitioner, and I was like, I am going to do this. I mean, I didn't like refuse any whatever numbing or anything like that, but they don't knock you out for these things. Um, and even with the numbing, it was dealing with essentially was a dual root canal was brutal. Like it was like feel like I was like really trying to like be mindful of it, and it was rough. It was definitely rough. Um And I'm no weakling when it comes to dealing with pain or with my satipatthana skills, but it was tough. Like you can reach a certain, if you can do it up to a certain point, I think it is good. You could learn from it, but everybody has their limits. Everybody has their limits. So, and who knows what the limits are for these people who would be, bragging or whatever. Haha. Yeah, we'll see. This is me when I'm like in a vegetarian place or some place where like my nutrition drops and like my mind is all goofy. Like I can't The meditation is observing agitation and aversion. That's what my meditation becomes. Trying to keep my agitation and aversion from causing unskillful action. So yeah, well, your mind is not always going to be clear, whether from medication or nutrition or anything. Your mind is not always, if you want your mind to always be clear, well, you can't really learn just from, I mean, you can up to a point, but your mind is going to have all kinds of things in it. It's going to be tired. It's going to be loopy. It's going to be clear. It's going to be all these things. And you practice with all of these conditions. That's just the way it is. All right. Very good. Well, gratitude and joy. I don't know exactly what that practice would be, but it sounds like it probably could be something similar to metta being a samatha practice, allowing the mind to become calm, tranquil, etc. We have about 9 minutes or so to till the end of the hour. We'll probably end at the hour. Um, we have that time if anybody has any other questions or anything to discuss. once I get back from India, we should probably have a good number of months of just the regular scheduled stuff. Maybe even like the first half of the year. Don't see too many possible interruptions, at least long-term interruptions. Already in the plannings for that. Seeing if I'm going to be staying with Indonesians in New York, Bante Rahula. We do a reading to close out. Sure. Why don't we read some Dhammapada? And I'm gonna try to spend 2 months in Colorado this time. I'm gonna try to spend. I think I should be able to get close if I don't make the whole way, but I'm gonna try to spend March and April in Colorado. So we'll see how things go. And there is a possibility this is gonna be a long time. This is gonna be like when I was in the tent at Aranya Bodhi. And I was in California for 5 months. But there is a possibility that I spend 5 months at Abhayagiri next year. Possible. It was only originally supposed to be the Vasa, but they might want me to come maybe spend more time there to see if I last the Vasa or something like that. But so there's possibility I might be a half a year there, but we'll have to see. It's all up to them what they want and what they approve of or not approve. Or I might not even, just go visit for a couple weeks. We'll have to see what happens. Um, but next year is already starting to shape up, so we'll have to see how that goes. Um, let's do some Dhammapada as we close up. Hello, Randy. Thank you, Gautam and Bella, saying I'll be fine in India. Yeah. I suspect I'll be okay. I'll trust in karma to provide. As long as I get picked up from the airport and brought back when I need to. Everything else in between, well, what happens, happens. Gregory says, I just wanted to say I found poly chanting to be helpful for me to build a stable practice and confidence. I didn't think of it before encountering MME. Thanks. Well, I'm glad to have you with us every day when we do it. Um, to be honest with you, I was kind of really happy when I was out of Bhavana that I was like, I don't have to do puja again. This will be great. No more puja. And then I was kind of like, come on, Jayasara, you should at least chant once a day. You should do something once a day. And I'm like, no, I don't want to do puja anymore. Ananda Bodhi and I had actually a great talk about Dhamma followers and faith followers. Because she's a faith follower and I'm definitely a Dhamma follower. So we had an interesting discussion about that when we were at Karuna Buddhist Vihara. Um, but I said no, it's going to be good for me. I should chant at least once a day, and do the puja, and I'm going to do it for myself. And if other people join, then that's great. And have the same kind of 7 to 10-ish people that have been coming to MME. Very, very little like new people coming and people leaving. It's been pretty much the same group, almost since the beginning of doing MME. Um, so, so it will continue. I even imagine doing the morning chanting it at my monastery with on putting it on YouTube. So MME continuing for many years to come. We'll see. But anyway, let's do some Dhammapada. The thousands. Better than 1,000 useless words is one useful word, hearing which one attains peace. This was probably my favorite, at least initially. Like the thousands was very impactful for me in my early days of Buddhism. I really liked this section of Dhammapada. Uh, I don't know if it's my absolute favorite now, but it is definitely among my most favorite. Better than 1,000 useless verses is one useful verse, hearing which one attains peace. Better than reciting 100 meaningless verses is reciting one verse of Dhamma, hearing which one attains peace. In this line specifically for me, like there's something karmic, something across the ages that really connected when I read this. The one may conquer 1,000 times 1,000, a million, men in battle, yet he indeed is the noblest victor who conquers himself. When I took the 8 lifetime precepts with Bhante G, and I was given the name Jayanta. Jayanta means victorious one. And I said, bowing in front of Bhante G, and he gives you a little sprinkle, a little shower, he says, and he tells your Pali name and explains what it means. And I said, as long as it means victory over Mara, then he goes, you know what it means. Very good. Because I was like, that's a big name, Bhante. That's kind of like, here you go, buddy. Here's victorious one, awakened being of victory over Mara. But so when I heard that, this line came to me like 1,000 times 1,000. Better one who is the noblest victor who conquers himself. Self-conquest is far better than the conquest of others. Not even a god, an angel, Mara, or Brahma can turn into defeat the victory of a person who is self-subdued and ever restrained in conduct. Though month after month for 100 years, one should offer sacrifices by the thousands, yet if only for a moment one should worship those perfected minds, that honor is indeed better than a century of sacrifice. Though for 100 years one should tend the sacrificial fires in the forest, yet if for only a moment one should worship those of perfected minds, that worship is indeed better than a century of sacrifice. Whatever gifts and oblations one seeking merit might offer in this world for a whole year, all that is not worth 1/4 of the merit gained by revering the upright ones, which is truly excellent. To one ever eager to revere and serve the elders, these 4 blessings accrue: long life and beauty, happiness and power. Better it is to live one day virtuous and meditative than to live 100 years immoral and uncontrolled. And we see this across the suttas, across the Vinaya, across everything, that quality is better than quantity. Right? It's better that you die young, but you lived a good life of Dhamma, than you live to 130 and you heard no Dhamma, you practiced no Dhamma, and you lived immorally. Right? So it's more about practicing and living in good Dhamma than how long you live, these kind of things. Better it is to live one day strenuous and resolute than to live 100 years sluggish and dissipated. Better it is to live one day seeing the rise and fall of things than to live 100 years without ever seeing the rise and fall of things. Better it is to live one day seeing the deathless than to live 100 years without ever seeing the deathless. Better it is to live one day seeing the supreme truth than to live 100 years without ever seeing the supreme truth. All right, friends. Well, if I make it, if I make it home after India and still alive, then we'll continue. I come back December 11th, so whatever the Monday after that, we'll do Dhammapalooza. So, Suki Hotu, may you be happy and at ease, practice well and be well, and may you have a spiritually successful and peaceful practice until we meet again. Have a good couple weeks, friends.